Star Wars, Young Jedi Knights, Shadow Academy, Chapter 18. Jason, Jaina, and Lobaka were first surprised and delighted that they would be together for the next exercise, but the grim expressions on Brackus and Tamithai soon soured their pleasure. Obviously, Jason thought the two Shadow Academy instructors had something difficult and dangerous in mind. Because you must move forward in your training, Brackus said, motioning outward to represent progress. We have designed exercises to present greater and greater challenges for your abilities. Loie groaned in dismay. For this next test, the three of you must work together. Each trainee must learn to act in concert with others to assist our cause. There are times when we must be unified to provide appropriate service to the Second Imperium. EMTD parroted from his place at Loie's waist. Oh, most certainly. Appropriate service to the Empire. Loie growled for the translating droid to be quiet. You needn't take that tone with me. I am simply reinforcing the things you need to know, the reprogrammed EMTD replied, miffed. The three companions found themselves in a new room this time, smaller, more claustrophobic, with numerous round hatches built into the walls on every side. Timothy Ka went to the control panel in one corner and tapped a series of commands with her long, nailed fingers. 4 of the metal hatches slid open, and spherical remotes floated out on repulsor fields. The remotes were metal balls studded with tiny lasers. They reminded Jason of the defensive satellites that had been unable to stop the Imperial blast boats from invading Gemdiver Station. He felt uneasy, wondering if the floating drones would start firing at them. These remotes are for your protection, Timothy Kai said. That is, if the Wookiee can operate them correctly. Loie growled in question. Oh, do be patient, Lobaka. Oh, do be patient, Lobaka, EMTD said. I'm sure she'll explain everything in good time. She's quite good at this, you know. Brackus gestured to the remaining hatches on the wall. These will open at random, he said, and they will hurl objects at you. Brackus reached into the folds of his silvery robe and withdrew a pair of polished wooden sticks, each about the length of Jason's arms. He handed them to the twins. These are your only weapons. These sticks and the Force. If the Force is your ally, you have a powerful weapon. We know that already, Jaina snapped. Good, Brackus said, his intensely calm smile still in place. Then you won't object to the other restrictions we place on you. From his sleeve, he pulled out 2 long black strips of cloth. You'll be blindfolded. You must use the Force to detect objects coming at you. Jason felt his heart sink. When the objects fly at you, you must either nudge them aside with the Force or strike them with the wooden sticks. He shrugged. That's all. A simple enough game. Timothy Kai took up the explanation. The Wookiee will be in an observation chamber, working to protect you as well. He'll have full control of the computer to run these 4 remotes. They'll have powerful enough lasers to disintegrate any of the projectiles. Of course, if he misses, the laser strikes you instead. He might cause serious injury. So, Brackus rubbed his hands together as a look of anticipation on his beautiful face. You have your own weapons, and the Wookiee has the remotes. The 3 of you must work together to keep yourselves alive. Jason swallowed nervously. Jaina lifted her chin and scowled at the 2 teachers. Loie bristled, clenching and unclenching his hairy hands. Let me point out, Timothy Kai said, her voice thick and powerful, that these are not holograms. These are real threats, and if one strikes you, you will feel pain. Well, just what kind of objects are these anyway? Jason asked. What are you going to throw at us? There will be 3 levels to your test, Brackus answered. During the first stage, we'll throw hard balls at you. They may sting, but they'll cause no permanent damage. In the second round, as the test speeds up, we'll throw rocks, which could break bones and cause serious injury. Timothy Kai's deep red lips wore a broad smile as she was savoring some pleasant thought. The third round will involve knives. Jaina sucked in a shaky breath. I'm glad you have such faith in our abilities, Jason grumbled. I will be greatly disappointed if you are both killed, Brackus told them, his expression earnest. Hey, so will we, Jason said. I think he'll get over it before we do, Jane added in a low voice. Jason shifted his weight on his feet and covered a wince as he stepped down onto the hard Corsica gem in his foot. He kept it hidden there, not knowing what else to do with it, but right now, the last thing he wanted to do was feel the sharp gemstone under his heel and be distracted. He wiggled his foot until his gem was tucked comfortably off to the side. Brackus nudged the blindfold over Jason's eyes, and everything went black. The Wookiee will do what he can to protect you. Jason gripped the hard stick in his hands and considered dealing the dark Jedi teacher a good whack on the kneecaps, then claiming he had become disoriented by the blindfold, and it was an accident. But he decided that such an act would only buy them trouble, and they needed their energy for other purposes. Good luck, Brackus said, unseen, close to his ear. Jason didn't respond, and he heard Timothy Kai chuckled as they led Loey out of the chamber. The Wookiee moaned, but Yimtidi's tiny voice snapped back. Now, Lobacca, complaining will do you very little good. You must learn to be brave and dedicated as I am. Jason, standing in blackness with nothing to hold on but his stick, heard the doors hiss shut behind them. You ready for this, Jaina? He asked. What kind of question is that? She said. The room remained silent around them. He could hear himself breathe, his heart pounding in his ears. He sensed Jaina beside him. He heard the rustle of her clothes as she moved. Might be better if we stand back to back, she suggested. Cover each other as much as we can. They pressed themselves shoulder to shoulder and listened and waited. Soon they heard a hum of machinery, a quiet grinding sound as one of the metal portholes slid open. Jason reached out with the force to see through the blindfold to detect where the projectile would come from. Then, with a sudden whump of compressed air, one of the objects shot at them like a cannonball. Using his senses, Jason whirled, swinging the stick like a bat. He tried to smack the ball out of the way, but it struck him on his shoulder. It was hard and it stung. Ow! He yelped. Then a second ball shot out. He heard the sizzle of remotes firing, but then Jaina also cried out behind them. There was not so much in pain as in startled embarrassment. He tried to visualize where the next missile would come from. The noises came faster now. He heard another metal porthole hissing open, another hard ball shooting toward him. He swung the wooden stick, and this time grazed it with the edge. He felt a surge of triumph, but realized that he had hit the ball with more than blind luck than skill or the force. Another hiss at the porthole, another ball, and another, coming from a different direction. Under Loey's control, the remote shot tiny blasts at the flying balls. Jason heard an impact and thought perhaps Loey had struck one of the targets. He hoped the lanky Wookiee wouldn't misfire. Brackus had instructed them to use anger to increase their control over the force. As another ball hit Jason in the ribs, the stinging impact didn't make him want to lash out in retaliation, but Jason also remembered his Uncle Luke's lesson. A Jedi knows the Force best when he is calm and passive, when he lets it flow through them rather than trying to let it twist it to his own purposes. Jason heard a loud crack of wood as his sister struck one of the hard balls. Gotcha, she cried. As he let his mind open up, Jason saw a small, bright blur through the blindfold darkness and knew the next ball would come from that direction. He used the force to nudge it out of the way, and the ball swung wide, smacking the wall instead. He saw another bright blur, then another and another as more projectiles came faster and faster. He used the force. He swung the wooden stick, trying to keep up with the flying balls. He sensed that Jaina was also doing better, and that the laser bolts from Loey's remote seemed to be striking their targets more often. But with the sheer number of projectiles, Loey had a miss occasionally. Something hard and rough struck Jason on the right shoulder at his elbow, and a wave of blazing pain took his breath away. His arm went numb, and Jason shifted the stick to his left hand, realizing the test had reached its second stage. They were being bombarded with sharp stones. In the observation chamber, Loey Baca worked frantically at his computer controls, guiding the 4 defensive drones. He fired their lasers and vaporized a few targets. But then the projectile launches picked up speed, and Loey knew he didn't dare misfire, because if he struck one of the twins with a laser, he would do as much of damage as one of the stones. He missed another one, and the rock hit Jaina on the thigh. He saw her blindfolded face crimple in a wince of sudden agony. Jaina's knees buckled and she nearly went down, but she managed to keep her balance somehow, swinging automatically with the stick and deflecting another stone that came straight at her head. More sharp rocks hurtled toward the twins, launched with deadly speed. Loey began shooting all the remotes at once, firing. He had already slagged one of the portholes so it would no longer launch stones, but despite his best efforts, he missed again, and this time a rock struck Jason on the side. The twins were both hurt now, badly bruised and reeling. Though they kept firing as best as they could, Loey groaned a quiet apology and kept working at the computer controls. EMTD spoke a sharp, pestering voice. Need I point out, Lobaka, that the Empire will be quite disappointed if you don't perform to the best of your abilities in this test? Loey didn't waste energy telling the translating droid to be quiet. He worked the complex controls, calling up programming, reassigning parameters, hammering instructions with his left hand, controlling the remotes with his right, using everything he knew about computers. Loey had a desperate plan, but his attempt absorbed part of his concentration. In his moment of distraction, more and more of the hard rocks got through to pummel the Jedi twins. But Loey had no choice if he was to make his plan come off. He sensed that in order to demonstrate their power, the teachers of the Shadow Academy were willing to risk hurting their students. As long as they were left with the strongest trainees, they didn't care if someone actually got killed during the exercises. Loey's only hope was to bring it all down. He glanced up, tossing ginger-colored fur out of his eyes as the stones kept flying. Jason was on his knees now, dazedly swinging one-handed with the stick. His right arm hung limp at his side. Loey saw that both of his friends were battered and bruised, and still the rocks fired at them without mercy. After a moment's pause, something changed, and long metal knives began flying out. Loey worked close to panic, but forced his concentration on the computer. It was his only hope, Jason and Jaina's only hope. The twins used their force abilities to deflect the incoming blades into the walls, where they left long white scars on the metal. Another knife launched out, then another. Frantically keying more controls in the command terminal, Loey let the floating remotes fall silent. He had one last idea. One last chance. Master Lobaka, EMT scolded. What do you think? Loey punched in a command string that he hoped would bypass all the information sequences, then executed it. 5 portholes opened at once, each ready to launch its deadly knife blade. Suddenly, the entire training room shut down. The lights winked out. The porthole doors slammed shut. Everything went dark. With a heavy groan of relief, Loey slumped back in his chair, running a broad hand over the black streak of fur above his eyebrow. At last, he managed to crash the murderous testing routine. Oh, Lobaka, EMTD wailed. Dear me, you've really botched everything up. Have you any idea how much trouble it will be to fix this mess? Loey smiled, showing fangs, and purred in contentment. Brachus and Timothy Kai charged into the observation room. The Night Sister, her black cloak swirling around her like a storm cloud, was furious. Her violet eyes looked ready to shoot lightning bolts. What have you done? Timothy Kai demanded. Brachus raised his eyebrows, an expression of proud amusement on his face. The Wookiee has done exactly what I told him to do, Brachus said. He defended his 2 friends. We didn't tell him he had to follow our rules. He seems to accomplish the objective remarkably. Timothy Kai's dark wine lips formed a sour expression. You condone this, Brachus? She said. It shows initiative, he said. Learning to find innovative solutions is an important skill. Lobaka here will be a fine addition to the Defenders of the Empire. Loey roared at the insult. Oh, Lobaka, I am so proud of you, EMTD said. The stormtroopers brought out Jason and Jaina, who stumbled as they walked, obviously hurt. Their clothes were ragged and torn. Scrapes and bruises covered their faces, arms, and legs. Blood oozed from a dozen minor cuts, and the twins blinked their brandy brown eyes and bright lights in the observation room. Brachus commended both of them for their efforts. A very good test, he said. You young Jedi Knights continue to impress me. Master Skywalker must be doing a good job of selecting his candidates. Better candidates than you'll ever get, Jaina said, finding the strength to defy him despite her injuries. Indeed, Brachus agreed. That's why we decided to take some of those that he already selected. You 3 are only the first we have obtained from the Jedi Academy. You've shown such potential, we are now ready to kidnap another group from Yavin 4. From there, we'll have all the Jedi students we could possibly use. Loey growled, and Jace and Jaina looked at each other aghast, and then at their Wookiee friend. Even without using the Force, the three companions knew they had shared the same urgent thought. They had to do something, and soon.